So, just check that's working. Yes, it is. Right, so, welcome year 11. Okay, you know you've got 2 weeks where I'm not here talking to the camera. So I'm doing this for you so that you can have some reference for how you can revise. This will also really work for when you do your GCSEs. When you do your GCSEs, you'll have done a play which I'm going to give you, which is called 2. I'm going to cast you. I'm going to treat you like professionals, and I'm not going to let you choose groups. I'm going to say you are playing this part, you're playing this part. So you will have it with basically your skills in mind. Okay, I already know what I want Daisy to play, for instance. You know, I kind of think I know who's going to play what part. So the thing about the play 2, just to quickly put that up aside, is that it's comedy and it's serious, very, very serious as well at the end. So there's a real scope for doing big caricatures like you've done last night, and for doing a highly serious, screamy, cryy scene if you want to. Okay, and we'll look at which one suits. Personally, comedy. Comedy's more achievable because of your age, and the serious cry scenes are often not done as well because you want to bring up really deep emotions and start crying and doing all that when really 15, 16-year-olds. Hopefully you're not that able to do that. Does that make any sense? Okay, but don't take that as any kind of slight on yourselves. I just think comedy is, you showed me last night, all of you, that you can do comedy, so I think we should stick. So here's your revision guide. Let's look at it together and let's look and go through what we need to do very quickly. This is a fill in the gaps booklet, which will pretty much explain itself. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply your plays to how you do this. So these will all include personal references to you. The exam itself is Section A, Section B, Section C. Don't worry about Section C. It's a review of one of the plays that we go and see, but I'd rather we focus on your own personal work, so we're going to do Section A and Section B. Section A is about one of your pieces that you've performed. It can be any of them. But Section B has to be a text piece. So it can't be your devised piece for Section B because it involves interpretation and things like that. So Section A tends to suit the devised pieces. So let's look at what they're in. If you remember, they come in 4 questions for Section A. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each 10 minutes. Take in a watch. You guys don't own watches, do you?
Yeah, I own one.
Do you? Great.
No.
Take in a watch, put it next to you and say 10 minutes, that's all I've got on this, and move on. It's not a lot of time. Section A, question 1, is pretty much written there for you. Fill in the gaps, and it doesn't need any more. It doesn't need a long explanation. For instance, the title of our piece was Club Stupide. Okay, performed at Cleves School Academy, day, November 2016. Our piece was about 4 bouncers standing outside a club, recounting some of their stories and events that they've done in the past. Full stop. That's it. Nothing big. The style of our piece was, that's where you've got to decide. The style. And let's talk about this. The styles of these pieces, and you can write this now, of course, if you want.
Wow.
What are the styles and the genres again? Who can remember the difference between style and genre? If I said,
Style's the way you perform, and then the genre is what you perform.
well done. The style is how you do it on stage. The genre is how it's written on a book. Full marks to Daisy. Well done, Daisy. So, styles for you would be John Godber, whole truck, physical comedy. That's a full definition of it. If you want to write that down, John Godber. God, B-E-R. God, B-E-R. So John Godber. But this is the bouncers, guys, okay? Oh, actually, you guys as well.
Oh.
Yeah. John Godber,
Yeah.
physical comedy. Okay, and of course the genre is comedy itself. The other style is An adaptation of television. Okay, adaptation of television, comedy genre. We would be wrong to call it naturalism. It's not naturalism, is it? So it is the John Godber style. Sorry, an adaptation of the television style and the John Godber style. Okay. The piece was set in. They want to know the period, so you decide.
Modern day.
Modern day.
Yeah.
Modern day for most of you. We performed in a black box.
Is this what it's called?
Yeah, this is a black box. I live in a black box. How miserable is my life? No windows, just black. And what's the audience configuration that they want to know? They sometimes will say the phrase, what's the audience configuration? And if they don't, you have to say it anyway. What type of black box is this? Is there an audience in the round? No. Where are the audience?
And tiered seating.
Tiered seating, but you could say that, but the most important thing is that they face me end on. End on is the phrase that you need to write in there, and I'm afraid you just need to learn and remember that. End on. It means here I am, there's the end of the stage, and the audience are facing me end on. Okay, an end on black box. Funny enough, if you just wrote black box, they wouldn't give you that one little mark. And as you can see, it's 10 marks, so it's that simple. 10 marks, 10 minutes. Technical elements included whatever you had. Did you have the full lighting rig? Yes, you did. Would you like to know the names of the lights?
No.
You can have them. You don't need to have them, but they are called Parcans, P-A-R-C-A-N, and Fresnels, F-R-E-S-N-E-L. Again, this is all on this video, so if you don't copy it down now, you can refer to it if you've forgotten this when you revise. How good is that? So, Fresnel, F-R-E-S-N-E-L. Those are the lights. There's also some profiles. It really wouldn't matter. If you don't remember the names of them, they'll still give you a mark for saying what you had, which was a full lighting rig with PA system if you want to help with the sound, although in fact some of you use the sound by using Bluetooth equipment. Some of you use the sound on your phones for effects. But you had certain sound effects for telephone calls and for music as you came on and off. Any costumes that you had, any key costume pieces, like just little ones to help you come from your blacks. If you were just in blacks, you were just in blacks. Or what did you use to help make the character? My contribution was an actor, full stop, that's all you need to do, don't say anything more. And I played Marjorie, whatever it was. You might like to say the mother, but it really won't matter. It is just a very simple description, and then move on, because that's the easy question. Does that make sense? Okay, so you can hear how yours would fit. Anyone got any questions? You can always leave a comment. I can get it later. Question 2. Is that okay, by the way? Does that kind of fit with what you've known already, done before?
Are you going to like send us the link or something like that?
I'll put it on YouTube and I'll tell you what to look for. BDT Revision. Okay.
I have your own vision channel.
You can see one for all the other years, all right?
Oh.
BDT Revision. It'll be, you just have to Google it or search it in YouTube. So, question 2. Now this one is a bit dodgy. Let me just explain the way they work. Remember, I don't know what they're going to ask. I know generally what kind of thing it's going to be. The first question is just to describe what you've done. The second question, and if you look at the back of this, it shows you in more detail the way they're meant to go. I mean, there is loads in here. This is absolutely enough for what you need to do. But if you come to, actually, sorry, it's the middle. Come to this, you'll see the way it says describe, explain, analyse and evaluate. And it shows us what we need to do for each section then. Section B, look at that lovely what, how, why. Oh, look at that. What, how, why, my favourite thing. That'll get you through this whole exam. Excuse me, picking my nose. The first question in section A is describe it, basically. So tell us what it is. Second question is start to explain a little bit about where it came from in the first stages. How did you develop it? However, 1 year, they said, not how did you develop it, but how did you develop your own skills?
What does that mean?
Exactly. What does it mean? What would be the difference between asking you how you developed the piece and how you develop the skills? Go on. Yeah. So, for instance, coming up with the lines and coming up with the improvisation, most of you you dive straight in with improvisation. Improvisation sessions, hot seating sessions. Sessions where I said to you, look, you're all on Gogglebox, remember that? And we became these characters, and suddenly, we had these characters. Great. So some of you, the characters came first. And then, of course, your concept came of, wife swap, turned to child swap, turned to social comments, social commentary about the life and times of these people, and these people that we've been created. Great. That would be the way things have developed. We could even talk about how the first rehearsals went. You could choose a moment and describe how you all rehearsed. So we improvised, and we did this scene where, I'm trying to think how you went through another idea, didn't you, first, you guys?
Yeah.
What was your other idea?
We were going to do like first dates kind of thing. So then something was going to
You could mention that. And you could tell us why. As long as you tell us why you didn't do it, then it's fine. Tell us anything to do with the way that you developed the piece, first of all. Any rehearsal memories you've got. That's why doing this mock now is perfect, because you can write these down in your revision in here. If there's any problem, do please follow these sections and fill them in. As I say, 1 year it focused on skill, so you have to think, actually, what was my personal skill? Okay, I spoke differently. I had 2 accents that I had to control. I had to do comedy timing, really snap quick, drop it, do. I had some physical comedy that I had to do where I was being pushed. I had some gestures that I had to do as a very rich person that I had to perfect, exactly. I had to become a chav, totally and utterly, and develop a very quick speech where it was all run very, very quickly, and I had to take on the physicality of this person. At first I couldn't do it. I'm trying to do something for you all. I had an emotional scene where I had to bring out the emotion and the pause of when somebody is possibly killed, we don't know, but we wanted to have to develop of that. We couldn't figure how to do it. All of those would be good examples of how we develop the piece. Yeah? The skill. See the difference between skill and piece? So you would have to look at these sheets and just fill in accordingly and be very careful of, and remember, 10 minutes. I recommend finding 3 examples each time. So 3 examples of your skill. Could be easy, couldn't be? Face, voice, gesture. Can you think of 3 examples of your skill and how you used it? Could you think of 3 examples of something you did at the beginning? I personally don't think they're going to ask for 3. I think they'll ask for 2. But they can ask for no more than 3, and they could ask for 1. But last year they went for 2. They'd be a bit mean if they asked for 3 in 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Anyway, we'll see. Any questions on that one? Is this good? Is this going to be handy? This is how they do things in Finland, you know. You learn at home and then you come in school to be taught. Question 3 in section A is quite an easy one, really. It's about analysing an improvement that you did in rehearsal. Something that you've done. So this is the later stage in rehearsal. You know how I always say to you, right, we're polishing now, don't change it, we're improving and polishing. So this isn't when it's developed or the skills are developed. This is the end polishing. Here is a really quick way of getting a mark. In a scene I had to speak loudly to my father. I did not get the right volume, and when we showed it to the class, people said they could not hear me, so I had to improve my projection by holding my air in my, holding the breath in my What was this called down here?
Spine.
No.
Spine.
No, the trachea.
The trachea.
Trachea.
Yeah.
Anyway, a pillar of air and projected my voice more clearly, and I made the consonants clear, and I pronounced my accents much clearer, slowed things down a little bit, and it was clearer the next time. Bang. That's a simple, basic way of saying I improved something. A more complicated way would be, I don't think people were fully understanding this moment that I was trying to get across here. So I wanted to improve my emotions in that moment. And so I took a line out, and instead I put in a facial expression which was of sheer angst. In this way, I hope I improved the drama of that moment by reducing the volume and drawing the audience in to a moment of silence which became a pause. That pause, then I just controlled it for 1 second more, and it gave it more depth and more sincerity. Okay, that's it. One way of doing it. Another simple way of doing it would be transitions. Transitions weren't working. We had that with lots of you in here. We really needed to look at how we were working. It was taking too long. It was killing the pace. So we needed to change it. Another really good one, which I would like you to try and do in there, would be find a quote of a moment that you had and you didn't act it well. So, I'm trying to think of one we had in rehearsals. Ooh, Naya, what about your line? Do you remember we had that thing about you screamed across to Daisy about the dad, and then you didn't want to be the dad, Daisy? What was that line that you had to shout back as the dad?
It's not funny with
Oh,
And you didn't like the way it was?
it was hard to come across as
As
I
a,
didn't know how to act it.
right. So there we can say that we had a line where you had to immediately snap from being this really Debsy to being this bloke, and you really found it difficult. And at first it was whether the line was difficult, but I would just say, quote the line and say, when I first said this, I couldn't do it as a man. And in the end, I had to lower my tone of my voice, stand more still, spread my legs, look severely, and stagger a little bit to give myself some swagger. I became more male and more aggressive. Sound good?
Yeah.
You can all think of a moment like that, can't you? That's the improvement moments. And they're very simply described. What, how, why. What exactly did you do? How, face, voice and gesture, did you change it? Why? Because the audience need to see that I'm a man. That applies to everything. And even more so for the final one, which is question. Oh, any questions? Is that one okay?
Yeah.
Question 4 is, I'll give time. Good. Question 4, if this is where you evaluate yourself, what does evaluate mean? Come on, you must have this in other GCSE exams. Evaluate. It's all over all the GCSE exams. Evaluate.
Like summarise.
It is. It's see the value of the good and the bad. So what's good or bad about your performances? I'd veer towards good, but by all means, if you've got something bad that you want to say about yourself, go ahead. It could ask for your personal evaluation, or it could ask for your evaluation of the group as a whole, where you're allowed to talk about other people's performances or the way that the audience received it. Just be careful. Don't turn it into a she never learnt the lines, or she just sat there on a phone in rehearsal, or don't turn it into that. You won't get any marks for being a diva director. Okay, better to keep it about the skills and so on. An example for each of you might be, and we want to try and find 3. I would say, and you can do this now, you need to choose definitely your best moment that you thought was the funniest or the most effective. You guys are going to have loads to choose from. Personally, the freeze of the girls was fantastic. The wedding ring crying, you know, I thought the beginning as well, when, you know, the invisible people really worked. Those skills, those are things you really improved, wasn't it, actually, as well? You really improved looking at these invisible people and making us believe they were there. And then they then became the most effective. Probably best not to use the same one. So if you've said in question 3 that you improved that moment, don't make it your best one as well. Make a best moment one that was really good in performance. When did you get the best laugh? Another thing might be to evaluate the general style and approach of the piece. So see if it worked in terms of the audience. How will we know it worked? What you did, how exactly you did it. So describe, there was a really effective moment when I... I mean, you were very good all the way through, totally in control, totally fixed. But I think we actually achieved sympathy for you as well when you came back in that time and you were crying because somebody had taken a coat. Okay? So that becomes the what. I came in crying because somebody had taken my coat. How? Well, you had a real affected tone of your voice. You really created a tearful sound. It's that simple. That's how we're talking here as actors. You'd even changed your gait, G-A-I-T, which is the way you walk. Yeah, your gait, which is the way you walked. It had become like sullen, S-U-L-L-E-N. If you need any of these words, by the way, there's a whole glossary of words about how to describe people on Frog, but also on the back of this. And there'll be a whole load given out to you as show my homework. Anyway, so you'd affected your gait, your gesture, and everything. But wait a minute, she hasn't told us, she hasn't got the mark yet. How? How hasn't she got the mark? How do we know it was effective? Well done. The why? Because the audience almost gasped with sympathy. And by the way, the audience were pretty good last night. They did react. But if they didn't make the noise you wanted to, in your GCSE exam, make them make that noise. Make them gasp with laughter. Make them roll about. Make them wet themselves. Whatever you like. Okay? Describe your audience reactions clearly in your evaluation section so that we know exactly what happened. Can you all think of one? Definitely. What if I then say 3? Can you think of 3 moments that you can say, actually, that was pretty good? Remember, one of them could be a little critical. You're evaluating it. You could say, do you know what? We just missed out on a performance moment. Let's think, can we be critical about anything? Can we be critical? Oh, Ross.
I wasn't a good enough girl. When he was proposing, I didn't feel very feminine.
Yeah, but you could tell that you're a girl.
I thought you were pretty good. All that.
Yeah, but like,
They did drop off.
it wasn't like the same as George and Ollie. You did the proper over the top wrist.
I'd have that as a positive, actually. I think you did a very good girl. Did you all agree? No, it is going to be difficult to be really finding something that failed because you had a good night last night. I wouldn't take your corpsing moment as a moment of failure. That's just an accident, okay? It's more to do with you evaluating the strengths of your skills. So not necessarily an accident that happens like that. Couldn't be helped, it was just so funny, just getting those lines out. So again, it might be characterization. Maybe we could say something like, we didn't get the laugh we wanted from this moment. However, mostly it'll be all good moments for yourselves. Does that sound okay for section A?
Yep.
Has anybody got any questions? I mean, that's 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes. So you see how quick it is. And it's you writing and describing what, how, why. We go on to section B. And it's very, very similar. Section B is the same type of questioning, but squashed together into 2 sections. So you now have 20-minute section and another 20-minute section. And there is a choice for these, so you need to read them very carefully. In your mock, it will be quite clear. But have a listen to some of them from the past. In fact, if you look through here, go right to the back. Section B, explain what you did in a scripted play. The first thing we need to know, and I'm going to say go back to DNA for this one, and then do 2 later. We need to know what our interpretation is of the play. DNA, I think, is going to be good for you because you know that play backwards, don't you? All that stuff that you know about the characters and the style and the genre. What genre is it?
Wow, we know this well.
It's like a robot.
It's a tragedy, isn't it?
You should sound like a robot.
A robot.
Yeah.
It's a tragicomedy.
I just a tragic comedy.
Tragicomedy. Tragi comedy. Tragicomedy. Ask your English department whether they think the humour in it is enough to call it that. I don't think it's intended like that. I find it funny because of the language. I find it very Pinteresque. But really, I think we're talking what, naturalism, naturalistic drama. There's a tragic element to it. So I would say tragedy. But I would check with your English department if they would allow us to add in a little bit of comedy. The point is, you'll be asked to interpret how you interpreted your character and what they were doing in the extract that you did. So there is a bit of explanation needed, and you'll see in here I've given examples again of how you might do that, of what the character is intending, what you are intending for that character. Now that sounds a bit general and vague, but let's see if we can do it now with somebody. Pick on Rachel because she's got a pen, she's looking at me, and he goes, I've just told her how good she was. Rachel, who was your character? Yeah. And what in your extract, what was Richard, what was happening in Richard? What were you playing? Were the intentions for the audience?
I really can't remember.
Okay. Can you not remember at all, even?
No.
All right. Can anybody help her who was in her group?
Wasn't Richard meant to be arguing with someone?
Or was it someone else? It was like an argument for Heinrich, wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
Richard against John Tate.
Yeah.
There was a status battle going on, wasn't there? Possibly between them.
I don't remember.
You may need to look again then at your scene if you really, really, truly have forgotten as part of your revision. Make sure you've got your DNA script and have a little look. But we need an interpretation that says something akin to, this is the scene where I confront John Tate as the leader and I do my best to take over. I don't think Richard does that. Richard is more, I can't really remember. We changed the names as well, didn't we? We changed the sexes. But obviously, if you are playing that, you need to be describing then all of this through the what, how, why paragraphs. So we'd need to return to the script for your revision, and this is where the revision gets a bit dodgy. And you need to follow the instructions in here about how to write a what, how, why paragraph. The what, hows should be okay. What were you doing? I was eating mud off the floor because I came in and I was meant to be doing that. And, I'd gone slightly doolally. We'd find a better word for that. How did you do it exactly? I had stuttering in my voice. I was shaking. I was nervously rubbing my legs. I was whatever it was that you decided to do as an interpretation. But the important thing as ever is why. So the audience could see that I was being heavily affected by this moment. Psychologically. Great. There's your English interpretation. See, this is where I think drama is more difficult than English. English, you just have to do the why. You just have to interpret.
No,
In
you
this-
have to remember stuff.
You have to what?
You have to remember like book quotes. You have to remember like the whole book.
Yeah. With this,
It's not boring.
It's just so boring.
yeah. With this, you have to remember just quotes and lines, which hopefully you will remember. So let's do DNA for this play, and let's do 2 nearer the time for our GCSE play, but we'll have the choice then between choosing 2 and DNA. The second
Wait, so we can't
section.
do this one?
Sorry.
Wait, we can only do either 2 or DNA.
Yeah.
So we can't do the one we've just done.
Not for the second
What for
section,
them?
because it's a devised piece, and it has to be a text piece.
When are we forming 2?
February,
Oh.
pretty soon.
February when then? February when?
January, February, March.
When you come back from half term.
Oh right, okay, that's right.
So I'd give the half term, and then we'd have a week to get it ready, and then the exam. 2 will be easier in terms of learning lines. Just let me finish off section B, because I don't get distracted, because that's what you guys are like. Section B, section 2 is the same. It'll be an evaluation of your performances. So it will again be 3 moments from DNA that you can evaluate. What, how, why. Don't forget, what did you do? How, face, voice, gesture. Make sure you refer to those 3 things to keep it as a clear, broad description. And then why, what did the audience get from it? Okay, replay this over and over again. Okay, fall asleep listening to this. I do that with my YouTube clips.
Bye.
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 Oh, it wasn't recording.